Alright guys, in this last video here, we're going to go over basically an overview of the whole campaign system itself. A lot of this stuff we've already kind of touched on a little bit here, a little bit there in the previous videos, and it wouldn't really do a whole lot of good to break them up into very, very small segments. So we're going to make this video just a little bit larger and give you kind of an overview of setting up a campaign and the turn structure itself when you're playing a campaign. Obviously, first thing you're going to do is select your campaign sheet, which we have an example of laid out right here. Campaign 001, the Prelude to War. So you would select that, and then you would select the enemy that you would be fighting in that campaign. As an example, you could pick the mercenaries, but the difference between this and standard play is once you select your enemies for the campaign, they remain the enemy for the entirety of the campaign. So you won't be fighting multiple different types of opponents. When you select one, you keep that one for the remainder of the campaign. You also have to select your squad roster. And like I pointed out in the previous video, that squad roster can be one like this that is already kind of filled in for you, or it can be the generic empty one that you can decide for yourself and fill these units in on your own. Again, though, whatever you decide to use, that's going to be what you're going to be using for the remainder of the campaign. You also have to set your alert level, which again, on our campaign sheet, we can see here the alert level is decided already depending on what mission you're on. On mission 1, it starts at level 1 here as an example, and it goes to 2 at 4, and then it goes to 3 at mission 7. Now, we talked about creating our decks previously, the mission deck and the strategic options deck. That is very simple to understand. It is listed down right here on your campaign sheet. And for an example, this one we start with deck A, located right here, mission deck. First four missions will be mission A, and it'll have the standard mission 1, 2, and 3, and then the hive missions 1, 2, and 3, and then a couple of alert level of 1 events. All of that will comprise your mission deck. Do remember that some of those encounters can be drawn. These will add a secondary mission into the actual mission that you draw. So if you draw a secondary mission like this, like recon the area, you would draw again to get a regular mission, and then those two would be played together as the actual mission that's played. So you would have the standard mission and then the secondary goal for that mission. And again, looking at your mission cards, depending on when you draw this, the rules can change depending on what your alert level is. If it's 1, you're going to be here at the top, and then 2 and 3 will add special rules to the mission as you go up in your alert level. When it comes to your strategic option deck, the big thing to remember is that the ones that have the red restricted back do not get to start in your deck. You'll take the rest of those cards, shuffle them up, and that will be your strategic option deck. And then there will be special campaign rules that can have these cards added to it later on for a chance to for you to draw them. You also always start out with a command bonus, which will be 2 of these random strategic option cards and 1 point each in your reinforcements for your green and your line recruits. When it comes to the actual campaign turn itself, obviously you're going to start with your mission selection. So you'll draw from your mission deck to determine what your mission is going to be. Let's say we were drawing for our first mission for this campaign and we drew this card, then we would be playing mission 002, and you would annotate that right there next to the number 1 on the ID that that's the mission that you're playing. And again, your alert level would be 1 since you're right there, and it would change as you progress throughout your missions. Now, you would also draw 2 of your strategic option cards. This is different than the command bonus that you start with. You draw 2 of those cards and get the reinforcement points. These are on top of that, all right? So the command bonus is when you start your campaign, and then you will draw these cards before every mission that you play, and you get to add these bonuses. In this case, if we drew these, we would have a heavy battle suit and beta ammo that we could use in the following mission. Also, remember on the bottom of the card is the reinforcement points that you have to use immediately or lose them. You don't get to store these points. So in this one, we would gain 1 green recruit. If we had a dead member of the team somewhere, their status was killed, we could spend that 1 point of green to change them to ready to go, but you would have to annotate that they were green at that point. A unit does have to complete a mission to go from green to line. They do incur some negative penalties to their action points when they're green, but once they have actually completed a full mission, they get promoted up to a standard line troop. Now, when it comes for your squad selection for the mission that you're actually getting ready to play, it's handled almost virtually identical to playing just a standard mission. You're going to have the set amount of points that you can pick the amount, which troops that you want to take. Keep in mind, though, that these troops can be promoted up to veteran and their cost will not go up. So unlike in a standard game where you have to pay extra to take a veteran unit, you do not have to do that in a campaign. If a unit is veteran, they have earned that through spending experience points, and you don't have to pay an extra cost for that. Also, when it comes to specialist units like this demolitionist, you have unlimited access to any of the specialists. So you can take as many or however many of whatever specialists that you want. They effectively do not run out when it comes to your missions. Now, when it comes to the resources that you'll bring on each one of the individual missions, that's going to function virtually identical to normal resource selection. You can take up to 8 items, whether it's going to be med kits or intel packs, grenades, all the other good stuff. Do keep in mind, though, that the strategic option cards can give you the ability to bring either extra resources with you or maybe some restricted items get unlocked, like plasma grenades that you could then bring with you. The operations phase of a turn when it comes to a campaign, that's simply playing the mission out. The one difference between a standard game and a campaign game when it comes to that operations phase is you do need to keep track on your squad sheet here if anyone becomes wounded or killed, whatever status effect does apply to your troops, because that's going to come into play later on whether or not they're going to be ready for later missions. All right, so once your mission itself actually completes, there's a handful of things that you have to do to complete it, to kind of do your campaign or your mission debriefing. First thing that you're going to do is look at your units, your core units and your support units here, and any that were already marked with a status of recovering from wounds, say, that they encountered in a previous mission, they're going to be marked as ready now. So they have effectively recovered from their injuries from the previous mission. Also, any units that are green that were taken on the current mission get promoted up to a line unit now immediately. They don't gain any experience points from this current mission they were on. They just get promoted to line, so now they no longer incur that penalty that a green unit does. Now you have to look at medical treatment for any of your units that are marked OOA or out of action. That's what happens when you have a unit take wounds equal to their hit points while they're on a mission. You're going to mark them as OOA for out of action. For each unit on your list that is marked down as such, you're going to do a random number generation to determine what happens once they return back to base. So let's say our fire team A here had been marked as OOA for the current mission. We would do that number generation, and on a 1 or less, that unit has been killed, and you're going to mark that as their status. They would have to be replaced then from your reinforcements pool down here with either a green or a line recruit before Fire Team A could partake in another mission. If during their medical treatment roll you got a 2 to a 4, they're going to be marked as recovering instead. And like I was talking about earlier, after another mission completes, their status will change from recovering to ready. If they get a 5 or 6, it means they incurred light wounds and they're good to go. They recovered very quickly, and they can be marked as ready right off the bat. Keep in mind, any units that do get marked as killed will lose any traits or experience points that they had earned, because those units are gone from the game and will need to be replaced. Once you've completed your medical treatment, you're going to take a look at your victory points, and there's a little chart listed down here on your campaign sheet that will tell you how many victory points you earned for doing everything from completing the mission to other objectives to everything. You can even lose points from failing the mission. So you'll tally up all of these victory points, and then whatever the score is, you're going to put that over here on the notes section next to the mission, because later on, once you add up all those points, you're going to look at that to determine what your victory level is once you complete your campaign. Finally, you're going to tally up the XP for your troops and spend those experience points. For each unit that completes the mission alive, obviously, they get 3 experience points that they get to add to their point total that they could spend for improvements. Do keep in mind, like I said earlier, if a unit is green, they do not gain those experience points. They simply become line. They have to be line or veteran to gain experience points. You also gain 1 extra experience point if the mission was successful that you can give to any unit that participated on the mission. When it comes to spending the experience points that these units earn, there is a handy chart in the rulebook that goes over it, but the basic gist is you can spend those points to do everything from leveling up troops from line to veteran, to giving them traits. Remember that only 1 trait can be given to 1 unit, and if a unit is killed, they lose that trait. And also you can use those experience points to level up the unit's basic attributes themselves.